No one knows that it happened, but the truth still stands there like a stone in the heart of the night. Your life was called by the higher realm. No messenger, no sign, no thunder. It came in silence, but it was the kind of silence that made all of heaven stop to listen. That was what opened last night while you slept. And no one around you can explain why your heart beats one note differently this morning. But people do not need to understand to know that something has touched the deepest layer of you. Right? There are events that leave no mark on the outside, yet leave a line of light that never fades inside the soul. In the darkness of midnight, when the city sinks into a steady breath, when the phone is silent, when the noise of traffic fades away, the higher realm lights up again like an urgent gathering. No angel moves, no messenger takes flight. All stand upright as if they hear the sound of an ancient door opening, because at the center where light has no shadow, something unexpected has happened. Your name was spoken aloud like a decree, not whispered, not vague, not symbolic. A calling that rang with light, causing every spiritual being in that sacred room to bow their heads. Last night was not a dream. It was the moment when heaven decided to touch what had been forgotten for too long. You did not hear it because human ears are not fine enough to catch that sound, but your soul already did. That is why this morning, when you woke up, the air around you felt heavy, but not heavy, bright, but not bright, as if the world had been turned half a degree. And you keep asking yourself, why do I feel different when nothing unusual happened before your eyes? In the higher realm, the scrolls sealed since the beginning of creation were opened, paper without paper, words without words, yet their content was your life. Every tear, every year of delay, every broken dream, every moment you walked through pain and silence without anyone knowing. Not a single tear fell from your eyes that was not recorded. Not a single prayer spoken in exhaustion that was not kept like a seed stored in the vessel of the Most High. And then the decision was given, not reviewed, not discussed, not analyzed, only carried out. Because Psalm 33 verse 11 stood there like a pillar in the room of light. The plans of the Lord stand firm forever. What was written about you did not wait for consideration. Last night, it began to move. You had no idea that the heavens had just changed their shift because of you. You only thought you were tired. You only thought you had a strange dream. You only felt your heart become heavier. But that was not the tiredness of the body. It was the mark of light touching the deep place of the soul, the place you believed had gone silent long ago. No one knows which night in your life it was, but it was certainly not like the nights before. The spiritual doors opened in a rhythm that ordinary human hearts cannot hear, but your soul felt every vibration. Have you ever felt that? The feeling of someone calling your name from a place you cannot see. That is exactly what happened. Except it was not a person calling, it was heaven itself. Now let this truth stand before you like a mirror. You did not hear this story by accident. You did not open it by coincidence, nor stop here by chance. Something within you, the old part that is still alive, is knocking so you will know that last night was not an event from a distant heaven, but a turning point in your own journey. If your heart has ever carried something like a voice saying, "I cannot keep going like this," then last night was the answer. Not an answer spoken in words, but an answer spoken in action. Heaven did not only see your silent battle, they stood up for it. And few people know that when heaven stands, no force remains steady. From the moment your name was spoken, a series of movements began, fast, strong, decisive, as if all the years of delay were suddenly pushed out of your life in one night, not by your hands, not by your effort, but by a power you do not control, yet always belonged to you. And this morning, you woke up like someone who does not know they have been half set free. You only feel your heart is strange. The air is strange. The feeling is strange. You do not know what to call it. But it is not anxiety. It is aftershock. The aftershock of a night when heaven decided to reopen the plan for you. The plan that had been frozen by invisible resistance you could not see. The people around you will not understand that. They will think you are too sensitive, overthinking, too emotional. But the truth is you are only sensitive to what belongs to you. When the soul is called by name, it cannot continue living as if it did not hear. Your story begins again from that night. No light needed, no bells needed. Only a moment when heaven gently opened what had been written for you and said, "Now." And you, even if you have not realized it yet, have already stepped into that moment. Not everyone recognizes the moment their life changes direction. Some feel it through a major event, some through a conversation, and you felt it through the strange stillness of this morning. A stillness that carried no anxiety and no hesitation, but felt like someone placed a hand on your shoulder and whispered, "Wake up, everything has changed." You do not know what to call that feeling, but it made you stand longer in front of the mirror, looking deep into yourself as if a thin layer of dust had just been wiped from your inner vision without you ever knowing it was there. That shift did not come from the outside world. It came from last night. The moment the higher realm awakened the part of your life you thought had been forgotten. While you lay there in the darkness of your room with nothing but the sound of your own breathing, heaven lit up at a level you cannot see. Not because something went wrong, not because of a global disturbance, but because your file was summoned. No announcement, no introduction, no ceremony, only one decision. It is time to reopen the scroll with this person's name. In that radiant space where there is no ceiling, no walls, and no distance, everything unfolds by the law of light. Nothing can be hidden. A scroll rose in the middle of the space, not flying, not drifting, but held by the weight of its own presence. Your name rested on it, not written in ink, but in sacred knowing. No one asked where it came from, because it had always been there. Last night it was simply allowed to open again. No hand pulled the cover, no sound of pages turning, only light expanding like an invisible door cracking open so that you, the deepest part of you, could face the whole truth of who you are. The lines inside were not written with letters. They appeared like the memories of the soul, what you lived but could not express, what you felt but did not dare keep, what you overcame without anyone noticing. And in that moment, the ancient echo of Jeremiah 1 verse 5 filled the space. "Before I formed you, I knew you." It did not sound like a scripture being quoted. It felt like an old recording from the depths of your soul being played again. The rhythm of that truth was not in sound, but in reality. The reality that you are not defined by what you have been through, but by the one who called you before your first breath. Light passed through every layer of that scroll, revealing not only your beautiful moments, but also the things you tried to hide, the mistakes you quietly blamed yourself for, the fears you never shared, the times you pretended to be fine so you would not trouble anyone. Everything was placed before the light, not to accuse you, but to free you. That kind of illumination did not resemble the judgmental scrutiny of people. It was like bringing a precious object covered in dust out into the light, so it can show its true form again. There were pages holding the tears you held back, pages holding the times you could not admit you were tired, pages holding the dreams you buried because you thought you were not good enough. And the strangest part was this: all of it made heaven stand still. No one turned away, no one smirked, no one judged. Not a single sign showed that you were seen as weak. On the contrary, every moment you endured silently, every time you kept going while your heart was tired, every moment you softened yourself to protect others, all of it was seen as strength. Heaven did not see you as someone who failed. Heaven saw the one who stood in places where others might have fallen, the one who loved in places where others closed their hearts, the one who kept walking even when the path was foggy like mist, the one who held on to their humanity even on days when darkness wanted to take everything. And that is what made the room of light feel solemn. No discussions, no approvals or objections. Every truth of yours appeared, and heaven simply looked, not to judge, but to acknowledge. As each layer of the scroll was revealed, that acknowledgement became so clear that the light in the room seemed to change color. It turned thicker, deeper, carrying the certainty of something already established. You cannot remain in your old state. You cannot keep being delayed. You cannot stay trapped in patterns that do not belong to you. You cannot continue walking the same circles that once kept you still. Not because you deserve more than others, not because you did more than anyone else, but because what was written about you had reached its time to be fulfilled. In the spiritual realm, there are moments that cannot be postponed, cannot be slowed down, cannot be interrupted, and you have stepped into that exact moment. The moment heaven decided to place you back into your intended flow. No horn, no sign, no announcement, only a shift. The shift of spiritual structure pouring into your life like a wave crashing from the unseen. That is why this morning you feel different without knowing why. It is not intuition. It is not coincidence. It is the reaction of your soul when the reality in heaven has already changed, but the reality in your life is still catching up. When the scroll closed, it did not close in silence. The silence in that room was so thick, it felt like the air paused to wait for a final declaration. A declaration not in words, but in action. The light tightened, then expanded like a giant funnel pouring out the command heaven had held for too long. No justification needed, no explanation needed, no expansion needed. Only this truth. Your moment has been activated. It cannot be reversed. No one cancels it. No one changes it. No one interrupts it. The higher realm does not expect you to understand all of this immediately. It only asks you to live in the rhythm your soul has already begun to feel. The rhythm of someone who has been called by name in a place where light has no shadow. Someone awakened from the delay they once mistook for destiny. Someone who has walked long enough to now step into the part written for them that no one can touch. And as you breathe in this morning, no one says it out loud, but heaven already sees you as someone freed from what never belonged to them. The morning opening before you is no longer like an ordinary morning. No clear event has happened. The sky is the same, the room is the same, the face in the mirror is the one you have seen thousands of times. But something is not like yesterday. You stand before yourself longer, as if your soul is trying to remind you of something that happened in the night that your mind has not yet caught up to. This feeling is not anxiety. It is light, yet strong, quiet, yet certain. It feels like standing at the edge of something new without seeing the whole picture. And you know very clearly, even if you cannot explain it to anyone, that you are no longer in the same place. In the unseen realm, the shift from last night is still sending waves into your life. It does not come with roaring sounds. It comes with a change in the air, a change you can only feel in the deepest layer of awareness, where the soul recognizes the command before the mind understands the reason. That feeling makes you pause while slipping on your shoes, makes your hand stir the cup of water slower, makes you look out the window for a few seconds longer, as if someone just called your name from the invisible. All these years, you thought you were delayed. You thought you were slow. You thought you were not lucky enough, not capable enough, not in the right timing. But last night, when your scroll was opened, the truth revealed itself in a way you did not expect. You were never moving slow. You were being held back, not by weakness, not by lack of effort, but by invisible walls built from years of accumulation. Words people said that you never forgot, expectations you had to carry even though they did not belong to you, fears born from places where you were once hurt, failures that made you shrink because you thought you did not deserve more. You did not know that. You only felt heavy, but heaven knew, and heaven recorded every part of those burdens, not to remind you of your faults, but to show that you have lived under restraints you did not create. Invisible walls that drained you without anyone noticing. Loops that kept you repeating old pages of your life even when you wanted to step into new ones. Opportunities close enough to see but not touch, slipping past like water through your hands. All of it, last night, was brought into the light. No accusation was kept. Every accusation fell like dust. No old reason had enough power to hold you in the old season. No voice of denial was allowed to stand before the light that just shone on the history of your soul. This morning, you did not receive a written report. You received only subtle signals. Your heart feels lighter by half a beat, yet heavier in another place, like strength returning to a body after being drained for too long. Unexpected clarity, a glimpse of understanding, a strange quiet in your mind. Quiet not because it is empty, but because it holds fewer noises from what once troubled you. It is the silence of a trial that has ended. When heaven starts a new season, it does not ask if you are ready. Seasons do not wait for the preparation of the one who enters. They wait only for the appointed time. And last night, that time began like a river breaking open after a long drought. Nothing can stop it, nothing can change it, nothing can delay it. There is a time for everything. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 is not just a line you read in a book. It is the decree that was just issued over your life. What once froze has melted. What once locked has opened. What once felt impossible now has a path, not by new effort, but by power that touched the thread of your timeline. You are no longer in a state of being held back. You are in a state of being lifted forward, and even if you do not understand it in words yet, your body felt it this morning, as if a gentle pull is drawing you ahead. You are no longer measuring each step like someone carrying weight. You are stepping like someone regaining strength. This is not an illusion. It is the sign of the reversal from last night, where every structure once against you was forced to dissolve. No force is allowed to hold you when heaven has issued the command. Maybe you have not said it out loud. Maybe you have not dared believe it. Maybe you fear you are dreaming. But truth is stronger than fear. You have changed seasons. Even if your eyes do not see it yet, your awareness feels it. Even if your mind does not grasp it yet, your inner being knows it. Even if results are not visible yet, you hear movement in your spirit. And in the space of your room this morning, a whisper sits quietly beneath your thoughts. Do not stand still. Not stand still in your body, but stand still in the way you see yourself. Last night, the light proved that you are no longer the version who had to endure delay. Heaven has seen you correctly. Now it is your turn. If something inside you is stirring, even a little, that is not a passing feeling. It is the awakening of the one who has been called by name in the heavenly realm. That awakening needs recognition, not through fear, not through forcing yourself, but through one simple act, allowing yourself to say, I hear it. If you feel this, just leave a word, a line, a single letter, anything, as a sign that you agree to step into what has been opened for you. Not for rules, not for appearance, but because your life deserves you to walk with it. If you want, you can hit subscribe as a way of keeping yourself awake so you do not fall back into the habits of an old season, not to support anyone, but to stay aligned with your own journey. No one stood up to wake you this morning, but heaven stood up to wake your soul last night, and that is enough to shift the axis of your entire life. You are no longer being held back. You are being called forward, and deep inside, you know it has already begun. No one saw the moment your prayer was lifted, but its trace is still in the air this morning. An air carrying a strange silence, like a great room has just finished a meeting and the door has not yet closed. You did not hear anything, but the stillness is so thick you can feel it on your skin. This is not the stillness of exhaustion or emptiness, but the stillness of a process that has been completed. The stillness of justice carried out in a place your body cannot enter, but your soul was fully present in. Last night, every word you spoke in pain, every sentence you whispered when you were too tired to form thoughts, every time you could only say, "Help me," with no other words, all of it was gathered, not a single sound forgotten. In the higher realm, prayer is not measured by length or eloquence. It is measured by truth, and the truth in your breathless whisper, the truth in the moment you knelt without knowing how to express your request, the truth in the tears you wiped quickly so no one would see. Those were the things that lit up the room of heaven. It was not a gentle light, not a decorative light. It was a light strong enough to shake the invisible barriers that once surrounded your path. When heaven tilted its bowl of incense toward you, as described in Revelation 8 verse 4, the smoke of incense and the prayers rising before God, that scene was not only symbolic, it was a legal act in the spiritual realm. And when fire touched the recording of your small whispered prayers, every structure that once trapped you began to crack. In these past years, you often wondered why you were always close but could not reach, why opportunity came but left like wind, why you tried so hard but could not break through invisible walls. You thought you lacked persistence. You thought you chose the wrong timing. You thought you were not wise enough. But last night, when light shone on each layer of the scroll with your name, truth appeared clearer than any human analysis. You were held back by things you did not cause. There were words people spoke about you that you tried to ignore, but they slipped into your mind and became hidden weight. There were failures not caused by your lack, but because the door was blocked by something you could not see. There were relationships meant to lift you, but instead pulled you down because of hidden motives you could not detect. There were choices you regret, but those choices happened in a context where you were surrounded by limits that never belonged to you. In the room of light last night, not a single wound of yours was judged. Not a single mistake was used against you. Not a single prayer was labeled rushed or lacking faith. Everything was seen as seed. The seed of honesty, the seed of effort, the seed of pain you did not hide. And when they were gathered, heaven saw no reason to delay you anymore. Heaven did not rescue you because you are perfect. Heaven rescued you because you are true. And your truth is more valuable than any image you thought you needed to show. There is a moment in every life when pain is examined as evidence, not evidence against you, but evidence to protect you. You have endured long enough. You have carried what no one knew. You have kept walking while your heart was tired. You have said, "I am fine," when you were not, and heaven saw it. The light last night passed through each layer of your memories, like clear water washing away old mud built up at the bottom of a lake. It did not break you. It freed you. It did not add pain. It removed the heaviness that made you forget who you are. The words you spoke in despair turned out to be the strongest evidence in the room of heaven. Do you remember the times you whispered a prayer no one heard? The times you cried alone in your car? The moments you stepped into the company bathroom just to breathe because the pressure was too much? The moments you asked, if God is real, is He listening? Those moments were recorded not in ink, but in light. Not on paper, but in fire, not to expose you, but to prove you were worthy of the intervention that happened last night. That fire moved across the pages, recording delays you did not understand. Across the pages, recording the people who hurt you. Across the pages, recording the dreams you put aside because you no longer believed in your own worth. Across the pages, recording the doors that closed right in front of you when you had already gone too far to turn back. When the light touched each part, no darkness remained. Darkness does not argue. It does not explain. It simply disappears when truth enters. And the truth of last night was this: you are no longer in a position to be hindered. You can feel that change in your body this morning, even if nothing looks different. Your chest feels a little lighter. Your breath goes deeper. A part of you stands straighter without effort. An old layer of fatigue falls from you like dead skin. This is not psychology. This is the echo of light touching the history of your soul. If your heart trembles even slightly while reading this, that is not random emotion. It is the soul reacting when truth arrives. The truth that you were never forgotten. The truth that your words never fell into emptiness. The truth that heaven has moved. And when heaven moves, no force remains standing. Last night, no battle rose against you. The battle rose to free you. And when the light finished its work, the higher realm began preparing for what comes next. What shakes the entire host of heaven? The confrontation with the true source of all the years of delay. There are truths that do not enter your life with explosions or lightning, but arrive like a thin line of light at first, then expand in a way nothing can stop. This morning, that very line of light is stretching across the atmosphere around you, a soft yet sharp glow, as if heaven left behind the trace of something completed in the night. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you can feel it in the deep place where your soul rests. The sense that something once hidden is starting to take shape, not rushing, not loud, just moving forward slowly, like a truth that waited too long to finally be spoken. And that truth is not aimed at you. It is aimed at what once forced you to bow your head in your own story. In the spiritual room last night, when your prayers rose like bright threads of smoke, as in Revelation 8 verse 4, the light did not only shine on your painful years, but on the years you could not explain, the years you thought were unlucky, the moments that seemed like coincidence, but shifted your path just enough for you to fall away from opportunities meant for you. Relationships sweet on the outside, but sharp inside. Words that sounded harmless, but made your heart sink a little each time. Moments you asked, why does everything collapse right when I get close to something good? Am I not allowed to rise? And in the light of last night, everything you once wondered about appeared with a structure clearer than any human reasoning. It was not bad luck, not fate, not God testing you. It was the trace of a person, a familiar presence, someone who stood so close in your life that you never imagined they could be the source of your delay. They were not an enemy, not a stranger, not someone openly cruel. On the contrary, their closeness made the truth the hardest to see. They entered your life not with noise, but with softness. They said things that sounded caring, yet each word made your dreams shrink. They appeared to support you, but their eyes revealed a strange worry whenever you advanced. They did not break you, but held you back, not by force, but by emotion, not by forbidding, but by making you doubt yourself. Many times you felt tired for no reason after speaking with them, but blamed yourself for being too sensitive. Many times you felt yourself grow smaller after their advice, but assumed you were weak. Many times you wanted to attempt something bigger, but after one simple conversation, you stepped back. You thought it was your lack of confidence. But last night, when the light from the scroll fell, truth appeared like a map. An invisible string had been tied around you for a long time, not to make you fall, but to keep you from going farther than they were comfortable with. The light did not come to accuse them of being evil. Heaven did not rise to condemn them. The light came to pull you out of the fog you lived in for too long. Fog kills slower than darkness because it makes you wonder, am I imagining this? That question slowly eats at your spirit. So last night, the first thing the light removed was your self-doubt. A doubt not born from you, but planted through those gentle words that claimed to be for your good. And each one of those words, piled up over the years, became small stones stacked together, enough to block your path without forming a visible wall. When the angel of revelation entered, the light did not shine on you. The light shone on them, and what appeared was not the face of an enemy, but the truth of their intention. Not every intention was harmful, but they wanted to keep you where they could control. They wanted you strong, but not too strong. They wanted you successful, but not beyond them. They wanted you happy, but only in a way that did not make them feel lesser. Not intentional, maybe, but true. And truth, even gentle, still has weight when placed under heaven's light. Every detail of this was laid out. The advice that slowed you down, the quiet envy you tried not to notice, the moments they made you hesitate to chase your dreams because they did not want you disappointed again, the smiles that were just enough, but the eyes that never brightened. You thought you imagined it, but last night proved your intuition had been right for a long time. You simply did not dare believe it. The light did not push them out of your life in anger, but through clarity. Clarity that they do not have the right to steer your soul off its path. Clarity that your season cannot continue tied to their limits. Clarity that the affection you had for them was not wrong, but the position they held in you was. And once that was decided in the higher realm, nothing could bind you anymore. The revelation of last night did not come to make you resent them. It came to remove the influence of someone who is not aligned with your spiritual journey. This morning, the lightness in your chest is the sign of that. Your mind is no longer tangled. You feel as if you just stepped out of a small room you did not know you had been locked in. You are not afraid anymore. You are not bowing anymore. You are not shrinking anymore. And that is not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you were just given back the true map of your life. The strings that once held you have been cut. The loops that once trapped you have been undone. The shadows of those who kept you uncertain have moved out of your orbit, not by conflict, but by light. No one can take back the freedom you have just received. No one can interfere with the process opened for you. No one can force you back when heaven has unlocked your path. The truth has been revealed. And when truth enters, darkness, even familiar darkness, must leave. There are moments in a human life when silence itself becomes evidence of what has just happened in the higher realm. This morning, that very silence surrounds you like a thin blanket, not cold, not heavy, but warm and bright, as if the whole space slowed its breathing just so you could realize you have been pulled out of a dark place you had lived in so long you thought it was normal. The truth revealed last night did not come to shock you. It came to free you from bonds you could not see. And when those bonds break, the space left behind is not emptiness, but room for something new to enter. In the heavenly room last night, right after the truth about the one who held you back was revealed, the light did not fade. It changed tone, deeper, thicker, like the sky was preparing to speak something even the angels held their breath to hear, because revelation was not the end, it was only the first step of rebuilding. When a house has been locked by someone who had no right to keep the key, taking back the key is not enough. The house must be repaired. The part of you must be healed. And that was exactly what heaven began the moment the invisible chains were cut. The light was no longer sharp like during Revelation. It softened like water, yet carried a strength that made you tremble, a strength that did not push you down but held you steady. The angels who stood like warriors changed their posture. They no longer carried swords. They held jars of oil, ribbons of light, like breaths, tools not for breaking but for restoration. The spiritual room shifted from battlefield to place of healing, from court to foundation building within you. And that was when another truth, one you never dared imagine, appeared if your inner soul still carries the cracks, left by words that made you smaller. Then even if your door opens, you still cannot step through, not because you lack faith, but because your inner strength has not yet healed. Heaven knows that more clearly than you do. So when the chains were cut, the next step was not to make you run. The next step was to repair you, from the inside out, from the parts you hide to the parts you forget. Hands of light rested on the sorrows you never touched, the corners of memory you never told anyone, the parts you labeled as weakness, though they were simply wounds untouched in the right way. There are places in your soul dried out by long disappointment. When the light touched them, you might expect pain, but it only warmed, like sunlight touching a place long covered. A deep sigh rose inside you, not through your mouth, but in your depths. Not a sigh of exhaustion, but of relief, like someone just set down the suitcase you dragged for years without knowing you were carrying it. Then the light entered the place once occupied by other people's voices. You know that place, the place where you once asked, "Am I enough?" The place where you hid fears you did not want anyone to name. The place where you stayed silent because you thought you were odd, too sensitive, or too much. The light did not tear anything apart. It burned away the dust covering your real worth. It uncovered the voice buried under polite advice that killed your courage. That voice, your true voice, woke up. Another place the light touched was where your memories were torn by failures that made you believe you had no right to dream big. Those failures did not vanish, but the light changed their color, from wrinkles into proof that you stood firm even when no one knew, from scars into lines that show you are stronger than you thought. Heaven did not erase your past. Heaven redefined it so it no longer swallows you. That was the moment the words of Psalm 51 verse 6 rose through the space. You desire truth in the inner being and teach me wisdom in the secret place. Not as a spoken sentence, but as a remembering. Remembering that God never asked you to be strong in pretense. He only asked you to be true. And it was that truth that opened the way for healing last night. Another beam of light touched the deepest place you kept locked. The place afraid of being hurt again. The light did not knock. It did not invade. It simply waited for you to breathe. And when you breathed, it entered. Soft like water soaking soil. Gentle like a cradle song. Steady like a stone. The hidden wounds, the ones you thought you forgot, trembled once and calmed, like someone placing balm on an old scar. Then the most essential part of you, the part worn out from years of trying too hard, enduring too much, staying silent too long, that part was lifted back up, not rebuilt brand new, but restored to its rightful place. Your foundation was straightened, like a wall once leaning now set upright. And you can feel this in your body today. No more trembling without reason. No more heaviness on your shoulders. No more confusion without cause. All of heaven grew quiet as it happened, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the work God was doing in your soul, the work called restoration. It does not happen fast, but it happens deep, it happens right. It happens in a way that ensures you are not only free, but strong enough to carry that freedom. You are not only delivered from delay, you are being prepared to step into the life that should have been yours long ago. And that preparation is not happening on the outside. It is happening in the place no one sees inside you. Something is about to be placed into your hands. Something so great the angels fall silent, and so that you can hold it. Heaven has been rebuilding the structure of your soul since last night. When inner healing is complete, heaven does not close the room of light. There is no door shutting, no sign of ending. Instead, a new stillness forms, not the stillness of rest, but the stillness of anticipation. Like the moment the sea goes flat right before a great wave rises. A kind of peace that lets you stand still within your own body without trying. A peace that does not come from outside, but flows from the place inside you that has just been restored. And in that silence, heaven begins the next step. The step even the angels lower their wings to witness. If revelation was the phase of release, and healing was the phase of rebuilding, then what is happening now is the phase of repositioning. Like when an object is aligned back onto its true axis, you too are being placed back into the sacred path you once drifted from, not because you wandered, but because another hand had turned you off course. Last night, when the old structures fell, a path emerged, not a new path because it never existed, but the old one, now returned to you, no longer hidden. In that spiritual space, the light gathered into a pillar, dense enough to feel like living breath instead of brightness. And from that pillar, the scroll bearing your name, the scroll that had been opened, examined and healed, rose like a lantern being lifted from the ground. Its glow was no longer sharp like during revelation, nor soft like during healing. It carried the color of power, the power of truth carried out, the power of destiny reactivated. This was the moment Psalm 33 verse 11 became alive. The plans of God stand firm forever. You once believed your life plan had changed because of the events you endured. You thought you drifted from heaven's path because of wrong choices, wrong relationships, or simply because you were tired. But in the higher realm, the plan never changed. Only the route to that plan changed. And last night, heaven adjusted your steps like a skilled builder setting each misplaced stone back into alignment. As the scroll shone, the angels stood still as if wind stopped moving. Not a wing moved. Not a sound dared interrupt that moment, because this was not a moment for heaven. This was a moment for you. The moment when your destiny, the one you thought had faded with time, was placed at the center of the sky. The light from the scroll flowed out into soft streams like glowing rivers, each one carrying a part of your life. The opportunities delayed, the promises you thought you were unworthy of, the dreams you stored in the drawer labeled later, the abilities you forgot you carried, the confirmations heaven whispered but you were too busy surviving to hear. All of it gathered, circling like a ring of fire, and at the center of that orbit stood you. Not your body, but your soul, still and awakened like someone recognizing themselves for the first time in years. An angel approached, not a warrior, not a messenger, but the keeper of balance, the one who carries heaven's stability. In their hand was a small seal made of light, a shape impossible to describe, unlike anything on earth. When that seal touched the scroll, the entire orbit of light spun faster, as if something immense had just been confirmed, sealed, and locked beyond the reach of any opposing force. And in that moment, a number appeared, not hanging in the sky, not written in ink, but pulsing through the space like the heartbeat of heaven, tapping gently against your soul. 777, not 3 separate digits, but one mark. The mark of spiritual illumination, deep awakening, complete unlocking. This number does not promise luck. It signals that the deepest part of you has just been activated. The part that understands what eyes cannot see. The part that hears what ears never catch. The part that remembers what your soul knew before you had a body. It is the sign that your destiny is not only restored, but expanded. If while reading this, you feel the number 707 vibrating inside you like a finger brushing a tight string, that is your soul echoing back. If you are ready, Leave that number as your confirmation that the inner part of you has received the command, heard the call, awakened. The light in the heavenly room began turning toward the earthly realm, toward you, toward the new day you stepped into without knowing you carried heaven's seal. And when that light touched your timeline, everything ahead no longer followed the old route. You are no longer the one searching for direction. You are the one stepping into the portion heaven prepared for you long ago, the portion once hidden but now completely open. And even if your eyes cannot see it yet, that new reality is already around you like the warmth of a spring morning, quiet, deep, and certain. When the sacred seal was placed on the scroll of your life, heaven did not close. Instead, it moved slowly like a giant lung, exhaling after holding its breath. The light no longer gathered into a pillar, but spread into wide, thin layers, like transparent ribbons wrapping around the space. These ribbons did not tangle or overwhelm. They held the room with a strange peace, a peace that let you understand heaven was not only rebuilding you, heaven was preparing to give you something you once thought you had lost forever. At the center of that space, the scroll with your name still shone, not with the light of revelation or healing, but with the light of empowerment, the kind that made the spiritual room tremble gently, as if the ground itself sensed someone was about to step into their true place. Something was being activated, not an opportunity, not a promise, a birthright. The inheritance heaven wrote for you from the beginning, but your life never had the chance to touch. In that moment, every angel shifted posture, no longer witnesses, no longer warriors. They stood like escorts in a sacred ceremony, as if you, your soul, were about to enter a level of authority few in the human realm understand. Not authority to rule others, but authority to walk in the portion heaven assigned to you, untouched by any force. Another angel approached you, not the one who carried the seal, but another, tall and clear like glass, moving softly yet steady like water pushing through stone. In their hand was a strip of light rolled like a ribbon. If the scroll was your life's memory, then this ribbon was the path heaven had intended for you from the beginning, but had been bent away by wounds, wrong people, and words that broke your confidence. The angel did not speak with a mouth, but the words filled the room. Restored, only 2 syllables, yet their echo made the whole room vibrate like a string hit by the perfect note. There was no anger in that voice, no regret, only certainty, steady like an underground river that flows even when the surface is dry. The ribbon of light was placed on your scroll, and in that instant the room filled with movement, not chaos, ordered movement, as if many invisible doors were opening one by one, quietly but with undeniable force. You could not see the doors, but you could feel the wind of change slipping down into the timeline where your life unfolds. Then came a soft ringing, not sound, but vibration, the vibration of destiny. For a long time you felt you were always close to something, but never able to touch it. Last night that blockage was removed, and now what was once held back has begun to flow like water through a broken dam. That is why your heart beats differently this morning. That is why your mind feels clear, even though you did not sleep much. That is why deep inside you hear a small voice saying, almost, not imagination, not temporary motivation. It is your soul sensing the new current rushing in. In that current, another phase began in the heavenly room, the restoration of what was lost, not in small pieces, not bit by bit, but like planting one seed and receiving a full harvest. There were things in your life taken too early. Opportunity, peace, trust, time, inner strength. You thought you lost them because you were weak. You lost them because they were pushed off the path meant for you. And last night, that path was pulled straight again. Another angel stepped forward carrying something like a jar made of light, glowing like a night sky full of tiny, strong stars. The angel opened it, and inside were bright fragments, each one a memory unfinished, a stolen opportunity, a part of you left behind because you had to survive, endure, and be strong enough not to fall. These fragments were not returned to you all at once. They were placed back into your scroll slowly, line by line, like a builder fitting stones into a foundation so no crack remains from the old collapse. And when the last piece settled, the scroll glowed like the sun rising over a mountain after a long night. Another vibration swept through the room, the vibration of returning, but not returning as it was, returning multiplied, returning the way heaven returns, overflowing, abundant, beyond measure. That was when the words of Job 42 verse 10 filled the space. God restored to Job twice what he lost, not because Job asked for double, but because when heaven restores, heaven does not follow human math. You once felt robbed of time, youth, opportunity, innocence, trust. Heaven is not giving those things back as they were. Heaven is giving back the elevated version, as if saying, because you endured so long, I restore you in a way you have never known before. And in that moment, in the higher realm, you were placed into a new position. No longer a survivor, but an heir. No longer the one held back, but the one lifted forward. No longer the one afraid of missteps, but the one led by light. Not a season of trial, not a season of waiting, not a season of being held. A season of transfer, the season when everything in your life begins returning to its rightful owner, you. The light from the heavenly room tilted toward the earth, and that current began to trace its way into each step you take in the physical world. You do not need to try. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to push doors open. It has simply begun. And your soul, even before your mind understands, feels it like someone hearing the sound of a door unlocking after many years of being closed. When the transfer began to pour down from the heavenly room, the spiritual atmosphere changed color once more. This was no longer the light of healing or the light of revelation. This was the light of authority, a light that did not blind but caused everything around it to adjust. Like sunrise, nothing commands the sun to rise, yet every shadow must shift in its presence. Your authority is the same when it awakens. No one gives orders, but heaven itself and every plan that once resisted you must step back into their proper place. In that room, the scroll bearing your name still hovered in the air, shining with a steady glow, no longer trembling. That steadiness showed the process had passed the point of no return. What has been rewritten cannot be rewritten again by any force. What has been restored cannot be stolen back by old whispers that once made you hesitate. What has been returned cannot be taken again by familiar faces who once hid their motives behind closeness. You have passed the stage of being shaped by others. Last night, you stepped into the stage of being shaped by heaven. Then a movement occurred, not loud, but deep. Not an earthquake, but a shift in the structure of the room, as if someone pulled a thin veil from your sight. You no longer saw only your scroll. You saw the invisible pathways stretching from it in 4 directions. These paths were not white light. They carried a thin golden tone like early sunlight slipping through leaves. Each path was a possibility, each one an opportunity, each one a promise that once hovered over your life but was delayed. And the strange thing was, you recognized them, not with your mind, with your chest. One path felt like the creativity you once silenced because someone told you it was unrealistic. One felt like the inner calling you ignored because you were too busy surviving. One felt like the courage you used to carry but was dimmed by doubtful advice. Another felt like the door that once opened for you but you missed the moment to walk through. All of them, instead of standing still like abandoned roots, began moving back toward your scroll, as if they were finding their orbit again. You were not pulling them, they were returning to you. That was when the words of Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 rose, "Gentle yet sharp, everything has its appointed time." You once believed your time had passed. Heaven did not agree. Your time was not lost. Your time was waiting. And when heaven says now, no force can delay it. As the golden lines merged, the room widened, not outward but inward, as if another layer of space opened behind you. And from that space came a presence, not light like an angel, but heavy, not heavy in weight, heavy in majesty. A presence that made everything bow without a word. This was not Gabriel, not Michael. This was the presence before whom every realm falls silent. The Ancient of Days, not a shape you can describe, not a face you can look at, just a reality, powerful, bright, and so full of authority that every idea you ever had about greatness suddenly felt small. When he approached your scroll, the light did not grow harsher, it grew deeper, like the glow of heated metal coming alive from within. He did not need to speak. His intention came out not as sound, but as change. The entire room shifted around his will. He placed his hand, not on you, but on the scroll. And in that moment, every path, every door, every delayed portion pushed toward you, like water released through a broken dam, not rushing to overwhelm you, but flowing with precision, as if every piece heaven returned knew exactly where it belonged in your life. That was the moment your soul, the deepest part unreachable by thought, lit up and recognized, this is your hour, not the hour of hope, not the hour of waiting, the hour of stepping in. Not to prove anything, not to strain yourself, not to reach for someone else's standard, but to walk into your life as an heir, not a petitioner. From the hand of the Ancient of Days, the scroll slipped from the pillar of light and began gliding toward you, not in a straight line, but in a graceful arc, as if it understood exactly where it was meant to rest. And as it drew near, its light touched your soul in a way no words can describe. Not hot, not cold, not dazzling, but right like a drumbeat falling exactly on the pulse of your heart. Right like hearing a story you know was yours all along. Then the moment that not even an angel blinked during, the scroll was placed into your hand. Not your physical hand, your soul's hand. Yet you felt it as clearly as warmth in the palm. The truth is, you did not grasp it. It placed itself in you, like a sword handed to a warrior who has finally become ready. The instant the scroll touched you, a surge of light opened from your chest, not bursting outward, but expanding inside you, deep, wide, steady, as if your foundation was being widened to hold something larger than you ever believed you could carry. And in that expansion, the words of Psalm 37 verse 4 engraved themselves into the space around you. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Not a distant promise, a confirmation that the deepest desires of your soul, the true ones, not the pressured ones, were now aligned with the destiny heaven wrote. The sky did not split, no lightning, no thunder, only a shift in the atmosphere. When a person receives their true destiny back, heaven does not need spectacle. Heaven only needs to set things right, and heaven just set everything right for you. You are no longer defined by where you stumbled, no longer restrained by whom you misjudged, no longer shaped by what others said about you, no longer held by the errors of past years. Destiny is now in your hand, and that makes all of heaven bow, not to you, but to the work heaven has completed within you. You may not understand it all. You may only feel pieces of it, but your soul knows. And that is why right now, You feel a silence in your chest, a silence not empty, but full enough that doubt has no space left. You have received it, the scroll is yours. The path is open, the time is set, and heaven is watching to see if you will step in. When the scroll was placed into the hand of your soul, the heavenly room did not dissolve. It stood still, as if all of heaven were waiting for you to realize what had just happened. Not waiting for you to understand, because the mind cannot grasp what exists outside of time. Not waiting for you to explain, because destiny does not require reasoning. Heaven was waiting for one thing only: awakening. The alignment between what your soul has received and what your awareness is about to walk into. The light began to pull back, not to leave, but to make room for you to stand in the space now given to you. The room seemed to widen, and you, instead of being a witness watching, became the center, not because you are more important than others, but because this moment is appointed specifically for you. This is the hour you shift from rescued to empowered, from running to claiming, from surviving to living the portion that belongs to you. As the light expanded, you saw layers of space slide open like thin curtains. Each time one shifted, you felt a weight fall off your chest. Not the weight of painful memories, but the weight of long waiting. Some people grow exhausted not because they fell, but because they stood before a door for too long without being allowed to step in. That exhaustion became so familiar you thought it was your personality. But last night, heaven cut it from you. And now you stand there no longer carrying the heaviness of the years you were held back. In that brightness, the angels returned to stand around you, not as warriors and not as healers. Now they stood like witnesses at a coronation, not of outer glory, but of spiritual glory. The moment a person receives back the version heaven wrote about them long ago, there was no music, no cheering, but an atmosphere of majesty so real that if someone stood beside you in the physical world, they would feel the shift in the air. Then the Ancient of Days, the one who had placed his hand upon your scroll, stepped closer, not with sound, not with force, but with a presence that made the layers of space tremble like water touched by a fingertip. He did not speak with a mouth, but his intention descended into the room like golden mist. Walk. 2 words, yet in those 2 words lived everything you need to leave the old season behind. Heaven did not tell you to push, did not tell you to search for signs, did not tell you to wait more, only this walk, because the door is open, because the chains are broken, because the one who once stood in your way has been removed, because your inner foundation has been rebuilt, and because the scroll is now in your hand, no longer on an angel's table, no longer in heaven's vault as a distant promise. A stream of light flowed from the scroll, not exploding but pouring like golden honey. It touched every layer of your soul, memory, thought, intuition, faith, courage, and wherever it touched, that place settled. Not settled as in stillness, but settled as in ready. The part of you that used to tremble each time you tried to begin stood upright for the first time in years, not leaning on anyone, not needing approval to believe you are enough. This was the moment the words of Psalm 25, verse 14 became alive in you. The Lord confides his covenant to those who honor him, not so you can admire it from afar, but so you can step into it, hold it, protect it, live from it. That covenant is not for those standing outside the door shivering. It is for those who dare to enter the new season, even while their heart is still learning to trust what it has received. And as that covenant touched you, a doorway of light appeared ahead. Not a physical door, not a door with hinges or a handle. This door looked like an opening in space. An arch of light stretching forward, like a hidden road only those called by heaven can see. Beyond it was not the heavenly realm. Beyond it was your new season in this world, where what heaven wrote begins to materialize in every step you take. You do not need to run. You do not need to jump. You only need to take one small step. And that step does not happen with your feet, but with a decision. The decision that you will not live as someone reduced anymore. Not love yourself with hesitation anymore. Not move forward with the mindset of hoping for permission. The decision to live as someone who knows they have received the scroll, carry the seal, and have been healed, revealed, restored, and empowered. You are no longer the person shaped by circumstance. You are the person heaven shaped from the beginning. And from last night, your life must begin to reflect that truth. As you approach the doorway of light, the angels do not push you. They do not pull you. They simply witness, because this moment does not belong to them. It belongs to you. You will be the one who steps. You will be the one who decides that what heaven has done will not go unused. You will be the one who chooses to live according to what has been rewritten. Before you step, a feeling rises, not fear, but awareness. Awareness that heaven is watching, not to grade you, but to accompany you. Awareness that nothing holds you now but the habits of your old season. Awareness that if you step, everything will change and cannot go back to what it was. And right then, the words of Psalm 91 verse 11 pass through the soft air. He will command his angels to guard you in all your ways. Not so you live carefully, but so you live wide open. Not so you avoid life, but so you walk fully into life. The light in your hand, the light of the scroll, vibrates gently, as if it understands this moment even more deeply than you. It does not urge you. It waits, as if saying, I belong to you now. Do you dare step into what belongs to you? You stand before the bright doorway, breath steady, not because you are nervous, but because for the first time in a very long time, you feel the depth of your own being. You are no longer the echo of what people said, no longer the reaction to what you endured, no longer the one who walked without knowing why you were tired. You are the one heaven called by name, the one given the scroll, the one who carries the seal 777 in your soul, the one restored, rebuilt, empowered. It is time to step through. The door stands open, the angels stand silent, heaven waits, and your life, your new life, begins at this exact moment.
Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.